Welcome to the pre-show, everybody. This is YouTube exclusive, visual exclusive. You can only get this content on YouTube. So if you're watching, hey, what's the latest like pop culture news?
Not pop culture, but relevant to me and my fangirlness. Ashton Irwin's solo
I saw
album came
that.
out today. I am living. It's so good. I think if you don't like, or if you are expecting like 5 Seconds of Summer's sound to be that album, you're not gonna find it. It's like very different. But I think it's really cool. It's something really different and like something over quarantine that I've just been like trying to do mostly because I'm bored all the time is trying to like expand my musical tastes because as you know, Katie, I have like very singular music tastes. I pretty much either listen to like EDM or like crying music.
Yeah.
And I don't really listen to like anything in between. But I've been trying to more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is like a great example of something that I would have never listened to like a year ago, but now I'm really into it and it's awesome.
I need to check it out.
It's definitely different, but I think if you like their music, I think this isn't like so far off that you'd be like, what the hell? It like makes sense, but if anyone is interested, my favorite one is Scar, still by far. That was his last single that he released before it. And then Greyhound. Kill Me, that one's so good. And then Perfect Lie, which is the last track on the album, I feel like it's a great ending to it. And then also Have You Found What You're Looking For, that was his second single off of it, and it is just Katie, wait, Ariana Grande also released an album, so now you can have your moment.
She is releasing the album on October 30th, and she released like a single off the album today, which is called Positions. I listened to it one time this morning and I was like distracted with other things, so I'm gonna have to listen again. Very like true to her sound, I think. So yeah, I'm gonna have to listen to it again. And the music video is like apparently super cool, and I haven't watched that yet, so I don't have too much to say about that. I love Ariana music. I love when she releases music around this time of year. Euphoria coming out with 2 episodes in December. Yeah, that's really exciting.
I am so excited. December 6th, I think, is when they come out. So that should be a Sunday, I think, if it's sticking true to like HBO's normal schedule. Comes out on Sunday. So our schedule for the pod then will have to change a bit because we are for sure covering those. So I'd say our episode will our uploads will change from Monday to probably being like Tuesday or Wednesday when there is new Euphoria content.
Yeah, that's super exciting.
Our Game of Thrones video is now out on YouTube, so if you haven't watched that yet, go check that out. We ranked the Game of Thrones characters on how we thought they would handle the pandemic, and I just have to say, Katie smashed the editing of that out of the park. It made me laugh out loud so many times. And they really just fit. Like, if you watch the show, I don't know, it's just something about it. Like, they just fit where they are.
Yeah.
Where we placed them.
Yeah, it was a really like spur of the moment video, so you might notice that we're just like randomly doing it. It's very authentic Katie and Michaela. Like it was a night where we were both like bored as hell and we just zoomed each other and like did that for fun. It wasn't necessarily like a planned video, but we recorded it just in case and like made a video out of it. So it's fun. It took me forever to edit. So like slide us a view, slide us a like. I don't know. It would just mean a lot to me because sometimes I do get down about how like hard I work on some of this stuff, and to see like 10 views is just a little sad, but you know, keep moving forward, and I do enjoy it, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, go watch that. And same with our podcast, like some episodes do a lot better than others, and it's like just taking it as it is, and you just never really know like how episodes are gonna do, but we're like, I would want to listen to this, so like let's just do it, and we have fun. Like it doesn't matter at the end of the day, like I don't care, but sometimes it's just like dang it, like I wanted to wake up and see like 200,000 or something, and it just never happens. I have dreams where that happens, like I blow up overnight and it's just like, oh my god, it finally happened, and then I wake up and I'm like,
tragic. It's weird with the podcast, especially I think because that graphic is like the easiest to kind of judge. I'm kind of picking up the same thing on my TikTok too, as I'm posting like more painting videos, because my first few that I put on there, like the one went huge for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm at like 12,500 likes on that one. And then a few other ones like have gotten higher up. But then I'm posting like the same sort of content. And then like ones that I think are even better than my first ones are getting like way less love on them. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense to me because I'm like, I like this more, but like other people like the other things more.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the same with the podcast. That certain episodes where while we're having fun with it, like the kissing booth too, that episode blew up for us and we're like, why out of all of our episodes is it like the kissing booth, the freaking kissing booth?
Yeah.
Like there are episodes that I know Katie and I like our discussion so much more, or like had like we think we did better in that then don't do as well.
Right. Yeah. I did mention that in my video today when I was filming myself going about my movie premiere day. Like this series after, obviously I have a lot of like shit talk to say about it, but it does hold a special place in my heart just because it did kick off this Cringe series for us. And like that has definitely been the most successful thing to come out of our podcast so far. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think when we do merch, we have to do something with Cringe. Like we got to do something with the Cringe series merch.
Yeah.
I do agree that like as much as I feel like, and I'm going to say this in the episode too, as much as we're like going to shit talk this movie, we can't come for its success because the book, between the book and the fan base and these movies, like this is a super successful franchise.
Right. Yeah, I went on TikTok to like see if people were talking shit about it. No one was.
No, everyone loves it. On all of my, so I'm a part of a few different book groups on Facebook, and one of them is like a lot of them are probably I think around in similar age to me, maybe like a little older, a little younger, whatever. But it's this one YouTuber's book page that she has, and it's a fairly small group. It's maybe like 1,000 of us. And right away this morning, people were on there being like, "Has everyone watched After yet?" And I was reading through the comments before I even watched, and everyone was loving it. Like I didn't see one negative comment on that entire group's post. And granted, a lot of those people have read the books and liked the books, but still, like there was like nothing really negative that anyone was saying about it, which is surprising.
Yeah.
Although, is it surprising? I don't know. We'll discuss.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to talk about it.
Also, the movie with Florence Pugh and Harry Styles started shooting. So we will
get ready.
Be covering that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. All right, well, should we get into it?
I'm ready when you are.
I'm recording in 3, 2, 1. Buckle up,
because it's gonna be a long ride.
It's gonna be a wild ride.
No one cares, but we're gonna tell you anyways.
This is Popcorn Chats.
Oh, I think you did intro our drunk twitches.
I just want to apologize for that episode right off the bat before we even start. And I don't know if I said anything that I need to apologize for, but I felt like I did listening back, and especially listening back to the raw footage. There were like 3.5 hours worth of footage on that episode. I cut so much out. At one point we were talking about Britney Spears's Every Time music video where she's like in the bathtub. And then we
listening
were like
to Lindsay Lohan.
Listening to Lindsay Lohan's Rumors. I just got really drunk and I was super hungover the next day from that episode. So I apologize if anybody was offended. I'm not getting that drunk for a drunk Disney episode ever again.
Yeah, that one was... That one was a lot. That was a little too far for both of us, but what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Popcorn Chats. I'm Michae.
And I'm Katie.
And this week, y'all, we are back with another installment in the Cringe Series with a brand new movie that hit theaters and on demand alike today. Actually, today is Friday the 23rd. When you're listening to this, it's Monday. Regardless, we are talking the super successful One Direction fanfiction turned book turned movie franchise After We Collided.
Oh, yay. You know what? All right, let's just start this off with a positive thing. We have talked about it before. We're starved for content here, and just having a new movie to watch. Today was such a pleasant day. Like, I woke up excited. I woke up happy. Like, just having something to look forward to, you know? So I appreciate the After franchise for
Yes.
giving us something to look forward to. And if you listen to the pod, you know we've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Long time.
And I think a lot of you guys are too.
Yeah, I think so. I think if you're listening to this episode, you're either a fan of the After franchise or you like don't like it and you just want to hear us roast it, which I'd say we're going to do like a pretty decent amount of both. Once again, with Kissing Booth, there was no ally with me in those movies. However, with these, like, I'm gonna have to like give it some props here and there. So like you will get a fair share of that, but you also will get a lot of roasting. So
yeah,
I think before we jump into it, I do have to say again right off the bat, kind of like we said in the first one, while these are like cringy as all hell, and that we're gonna be poking fun at this movie, we cannot deny that it is not a wildly successful franchise. I did look up the second book, which is still on Wattpad, which is how it was originally created, has over 516 million reads.
That's like unfathomable to me.
And that's not that's just the online Wattpad version. That's not physical book sales. We can't hate it. The fan base is super rabid, super dedicated. This movie is doing well in terms of like box office amidst a pandemic.
Right.
And like fans' reaction so far from what I've seen have been really positive. We're ready to poke some fun at it. I do just have to say that it's successful and we can't bash the success of it.
Yeah, and the fact that it's signed on for not one but two more movies, right?
Yep,
like
the
that
third and
also
fourth
just
book.
shows that they know that people are going to watch these movies, and that's a smart decision for these like producers and filmmakers because of the success that the stories on Wattpad have had and the successful books.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, I feel like doesn't even have, I mean, that might be a bold thing to say, but like that's so many reads.
And same with Anna Todd, the writer of these. I think she's a little sus. We're going to get into the behind the scenes drama here later, but like her personally, a little sus. Also the fact that she wrote this about like a teenage boy.
Yeah.
I have feelings about that. But again, I do have to say, she has kept all of these books on Wattpad for free, as well as every book that she has written since. Even though they've been traditionally published, she has kept them on Wattpad for free. And she has said that because growing up, she didn't have money to buy books, so she turned to like online websites to be able to read them, or she would like buy books and return them. And she said that's always been important for her to have her material accessible to everyone. So I do just have to give her props for that, because that is really cool. And like you do lose money for having it free online.
Yeah. So. But it did work out in her favor because then it like turned into this huge thing, probably because of Wattpad. So
for sure, without it. And she's kind of paved the way now for Wattpad books to be turned into movies. So After is a trailblazer.
Yeah, bold statement, but it's true. Like for this niche group of stories and stories being turned into books and books being turned into films. Yeah. She kind of did set the tone for that. So
she did. So
just to plug a couple things, guys, if you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor, wherever, be sure to check out this episode that's available on YouTube, because we do a visual only pre-show on there that you can only get on YouTube. So check out our channel, Popcorn Chats, on YouTube. We post new episodes that you can watch every Monday, and new videos, vlogs. Obviously, we're going to have our reaction and viewing experience of After We Collided posted for this Friday's video, but we do new videos every Friday. So be sure to check that out and subscribe if you haven't already. And we have all of our social media linked below. Instagram, Twitter, Michaela's TikTok, Michaela's own personal YouTube channel, my own personal YouTube channel, and all my short films. I don't think I'm missing anything. But yeah, please go check us out, support us. How's your week going? How you doing?
It's going good. I mean, my week was pretty uneventful, like it typically is every week during these check-ins. I work. I have a 9-to-5 job that I work every day, so I do that, and then I check out of that, and then I pretty much read at night, and that's about it. Dancing with the Stars is on, and The Bachelorette is on, so I'm enjoying having new shows to be watching every week. That's fun.
I haven't been watching The Bachelorette at all. I just can't be bothered. Like I just don't have an interest, unfortunately.
It's okay. I mean, it's not the best season, but I'm more invested in what's happening next week, because I think next week is when things all blow up. So I'm ready for that. But yeah, as we talked about, the most exciting thing that happened to me this week was this movie coming out, and that Ashton Irwin dropped his solo album, which I talked about that in the pre-show, so you can go head over to that for my thoughts on that, because I was living today. That's all I listened to all day long.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were the two most eventful things in my life to happen this week. So
yeah,
I don't know what that says about me, but that's fine.
No, I think it just says that you're being safe and responsible and doing what the scientists are telling us to do and have been telling us to do from the beginning.
Cases are going crazy, guys. Like, seriously. Please, I know you're sick of it. I'm sick of it too. You think I like doing nothing? I mean, like, I love doing nothing. I have been the queen of always doing nothing, and now I would love nothing more than to do more than nothing. But you have to do it.
Yeah, so. And especially with the holidays too coming up, like shopping is gonna be scary. Hopefully most people shop online this year, and just like New Year's I'm scared about, and like just everybody traveling for Thanksgiving and Christmas. But speaking of all that, I don't have COVID ? Yeah, so after our episode last week, I did end up testing negative again for a second time, which was weird because I was still having symptoms, and I still have some symptoms like in my chest a little bit. I do run outside every day, so I don't know if that's maybe contributing. Yeah, so far I'm still negative. I still have to quarantine until this coming Monday. So when you guys are listening to this, I will be free, but I'm gonna go to get a test that day. And if I'm negative then we will say that Katie never had COVID, which is crazy. My mom's doing fine. Thank you to everyone who's reached out. You don't want to get this. We have no idea what the lingering effects are going to be. I pray that my mom doesn't have anything down the line. Still be cautious. Still be careful. Like, my family's still going to be super careful, if not more careful now that this happened. So nothing catastrophic has really happened.
And you know what? We will take it.
Lately, I will take it. I'll take just a nice, calm, quiet, uneventful week. All right, let's get into this goddamn movie because I'm so ready to talk about it.
Okay, Katie, should we start with our standout cringe star and standout cringe scene like we do?
Old Faithful. You go
Old
first.
Faithful. Okay, my standout cringe star is fucking Trevor. I did not What? Do you like him?
I kind of liked Trevor. I want to hear your thoughts. Go ahead.
Sorry to Dylan Sprouse fans, but I just did not think he was that good in this. I thought his character sucked even more in this than he did in the books. I thought he was like a sarcastic little asshole in this movie, and he's not that way in the books. He's more like soft and like is the complete opposite of Hardin. He's more of like the stereotypical like good guy, while Hardin is like the stereotypical bad guy. And I just thought Trevor just seemed like such a dick in this movie. I was like, why is she attracted to him at all? I didn't think that he really brought anything like special to this movie at all. Yeah, I thought every scene that he was in, I just was not vibing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like him. I definitely got that, like, he's the antonym of Hardin. Like, he's meant to be the good guy that Tessa could have, but, like, she loves Hardin too much or whatever. I didn't like how he answered her phone for her. I think that's problematic. I got, like, definitely Jacob Black vibes. Didn't like that at all. But aside from that, I just kind of liked how chill he was. Like, I didn't like that it was this huge epic love triangle, and I think part of that had to do with, like, they didn't spend a whole lot of time on Trevor and Tessa's relationship. Like, they, like, met, and then they had to go on Christmas break right away, and then they had lunch together, and she, like, kissed him really quickly before she went on Christmas break, and then, which I felt was, like, super unearned and weird, and, like, it's like, why do you feel the need to kiss this guy all of a sudden? I didn't feel like their relationship was good, but I liked Trevor as a character. I liked how he was like, you're fucking toxic. Like, he just called Hardin out, which I was like, yes, I've been trying to say that this whole time, and he just says it like it is. And I just think in the grand scheme of things, date a Trevor. Like, if you take away anything from this film, date a Trevor, not a Hardin. If you're in a real life situation like this, please date a Trevor, not a Hardin. You will thank me and yourself later. I don't know. I haven't seen Dylan Sprouse in a lot of things recently, but he did a good job, and he does look really young. He looks like 16 in this movie, and I thought it was weird, like they were trying to make him look really corporate, but I don't know. And I think it's cute how he's like crunching the numbers and like try to find her car. It's just cute, like the way he shows affection and everything. But
Yeah.
okay, that's all I'll say about Trevor for now.
No, that's fine.
Because
if you want to defend him, that's cool.
I did want to defend him, and I did have like notes about him, so I felt like I would just get him out of the way then.
Yeah, I will get into like my thoughts on him a little bit more when I want to talk about like the differences and similarities between the book a little bit. I know, Katie, you haven't read them, so like I'll try to be brief with them, but I'll save more of my thoughts on Trevor for like that portion.
Okay. No, that's interesting. I think you should definitely talk about that.
So who's your standout cringe star then?
Well, I didn't want to say Tessa, even though like it's Tessa for me, but yeah, she was our last one, and I feel like in our Kissing Booth episodes, we also were like Joey King is the standout cringe. And like it is always the women character that is like the cringiest, the most unrealistic, the most stereotypical, just the worst. But I didn't want to focus on that again. So I decided to go with Hardin's mom, which, okay, I know this is a curveball, but the actress is actually 50 years old, which she doesn't look it. Like, good for her. She looks such a boss. You know, she's killing it. But at first I was like, oh my God, like they're literally the same age, like once again. But no, okay, they actually did a good job with casting. Louise Lombard, good for you, girl. But I just don't like how she's an enabler of her son's behavior. And when she tells Tessa, like, he's better with you, he doesn't have the nightmares, like, I went through so many therapists and none of them worked, only you can fix him. Like, don't tell women that, especially when it's coming from his mom. Like, that is just so problematic. I think there's so many things about Hardin and his character that almost try to justify his behavior and the way he treats people and the way he treats Tessa. And his mom is like one of those things. Like, she's like, I love your mom. And she stays because of the mom. The mom like guilt trips her into it and basically like makes Tessa stay with them for her birthday. Like, who does that? I don't know. That's just not chill. And then I just feel like society has made telling women, oh, he's better with you. Like, he's so much better with you. Like, we've made that a compliment, and it's not a compliment. I like the idea of you make me want to be a better person and stuff, but don't put that type of pressure on women. And I just felt like that's all that Hardin's mom was in this film to do.
I will agree with that on your thoughts of like her guilt tripping Tess a lot in this. I will say I did like her and Josephine's interactions though, because they just felt very like natural. Like their chemistry on screen together worked really well. But I 100% agree with you about her like being more of an enabler to Hardin, which again, I hate to do this, but I feel like I'm gonna be doing this a lot, that like she's not as much in the book, which one of the scenes that they left out I want to talk about that I feel like was a great scene from the book that they left out in the movie really showed that his mom was like, Hardin, you suck, and like I am not going to defend your behavior. That they didn't put in this movie. So I think from what we saw though, I totally get how you see that.
And they do have moments where she's like, you messed up, or like Tessa's telling her that he lied to her and stuff, and she like doesn't excuse that behavior, but she's constantly being like, go get her, like you gotta go after her and blah blah blah. And sometimes it's like, no, like he doesn't deserve to be with her, stop. And it's the mom, Vance, Tessa's boss, is like, she went that way. Like, no, this guy is like throwing shit against the wall and like he keeps constantly messing up. Like, that's this whole movie is them like fucking and then getting in this huge fight, and Hardin like throws a lamp against the wall or punches somebody, and like these people are like, go get her, buddy. It's like,
Katie, you just described the whole plot of all 4 after books.
Literally, it's just uncomfortable. And like if we flipped the script and she didn't love him back, or if it wasn't this like, oh, I hate him, but I love him. Like, if she was just like, get him away from me, this would be a horror movie. This would be a stalker movie. This would be a kidnapping movie. You know what I mean? And for people to be like, go get her, when she's clearly in distress or clearly unhappy or like clearly mistreated, don't like, yeah. So I thought the mom was an enabler and I didn't like her. Period.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, standout cringy scenes. I have a few. Again, I won't get like super into details on these, but just the few that like caught my eye in this. I will say overall, this movie I didn't feel it was as cringy as the first
Agreed.
one, so I do just want to preface that.
Agreed.
But the few scenes that stood out to me were Tessa's drunk call to Hardin from the nightclub. I felt like their acting on both ends was so over the top and just super cringy. Her acting drunk was cringy.
Yeah.
And then his reactions were so over the top in that scene. Like, it didn't match up for me. That scene felt weird. The second one was also when they, okay, I will get into this more later, but I was glad that they like amped up the sexy times in this movie. Like, thank you, that's what the books were, and like we needed more of that in the film. However, the scene when they are laying in bed together, when she decides to stay when Hardin's mom is there, and they're like 3, 2, 1. That scene is so long, and then they just keep on going. It was so unnecessarily long.
Yeah.
And just like in the same frame shot, it was just odd.
Yeah.
I was secondhand embarrassed. And then just last little thing, when Tessa's mom called Noah, and then we were going back and forth on that phone call, and she's like holding out the phone like this, but she's not FaceTiming.
No. Yeah, that was bad.
It was. I'm like, why can't we know she's not FaceTiming? Why can't she just hold the phone up to her ear like a normal person and yell? Like,
that whole situation was
just
so weird too. Like Noah and the mom. Like, what do they do?
I mean,
Why
they
are they
suck.
still talking? I have a note about that later.
They suck. I hate both of their characters, and I hate both of them in the book, and in the movie they are no better.
I'm glad they're not in this that much.
Yeah, especially Noah. He's just.
But it's just weird that she like goes home for 2 seconds and then goes back to him. Like, it's fucking Christmas, okay? And your mom is like genuinely concerned. Whatever.
And that does happen in the book. She goes home. She like drives 2 hours home to her house. Her and her mom get in a fight within the first like 10 minutes, and she turns around and drives 2 hours back to be with Hardin and his mom.
Like, that's what the whole movie is. It's like so reactionary, so like you do one little thing or there's one miscommunication or misunderstanding and I'm gone. I'm on a plane. I'm leaving. I'm picking up all my stuff. Like, never again. It's like, how about just sit down and talk about it?
Once again, Katie, you're talking about the whole 4 books here.
I know. Well,
you
also,
would never make it through the books.
Oh,
you
no.
would be driven up a wall.
Oh my god, no. And I think that's something that I need to accept, and like you guys listening, just bear with me because it's so hard for me to like keep my criticism at bay. But these films, these books, these stories, they're just not for me. Like, they're not made for me. I just have a really hard time with stuff like this, and I don't want to be this like cynical, pretentious, like poo-poo person. And I really was like trying to enjoy this movie, and it was entertaining, but it just makes my skin crawl. Like, I don't like this kind of stuff, and it makes me
It's
sad.
not your type. Like, you would never pick up these books and read them.
No.
And it's not your type of story.
Right.
Where I have like a soft spot for these because these were like the first new adult books that I ever read. I only read them a year ago, and they were like the first new adult books, and how I like discovered the new adult genre and like kind of romance genre in general. So for me, they're almost like nostalgic for me.
I can see that, yeah.
Which is why I have a like, obviously I can critique the hell out of them and like acknowledge that, Katie, when you're saying these things, I'm like, you're right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I can't help but like want more of it.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And I had stuff like that too. You know, that's nostalgic for me, but it's like, okay, this isn't that good.
But objectively, I know it's not.
Right.
Good.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. Sorry. Your standout cringe scenes, Katie.
I did just want to bring up what you said about that one sex scene where they're like
finger fucking.
Yeah, and they're like, feel what? That makes no. I was. Like, that's not a normal human interaction. People don't do that. I was like, no.
It's so bad. And then when they timed the countdown on New Year's Eve to them having sex upstairs,
I thought somebody was gonna come in the door. Like, I was just like, what's gonna happen? And then, oh my god, whatever. My standout cringe, I mean, I have a lot, but one I would just say would be Tessa getting drunk for the second time in the film and overindulging and calling Molly a whore multiple times. Don't slut shame.
Unnecessary.
Yeah. and their fight, and then how that like leads into them Tessa beating the shit out of this girl, and then that like turns Hardin on, of course, because he's like a fucking violent person, and then they have sex, and I don't know, that was cringy for me.
No, I totally agree. I think the Molly Tessa fight was coming for a while. Like, they obviously don't like each other. They've always had this sort of like jealousy rivalry, but the slut shaming was so unnecessary that like drove it to that.
Yeah.
And the fact that everyone around her, when Tessa's like, "Is it true that you're a whore?" and everyone's like, "Ooh," who would really be doing that?
Right.
No one would.
And also, like, I feel like Tessa is supposed to be this character that is, like, kind of losing her innocence and growing up. And, like, but she's a good person at the end of the day. And, like, that just didn't vibe with that character. And I feel like this movie is kind of Tessa becoming, like, more of a bad girl and, like, discovering her sexuality and everything. And that's all good and fine. You go, girl. But, like, why does that have to be hand in hand with her having these bitchy moments where she's kissing other guys to like get back at Hardin? That's not nice. Like, again, super cringy. And I don't know many women who would do that. That would be their first impulse, to kiss somebody like right in front of him, like right when something happens. That's just she does that twice throughout the film, 3 times actually with Trevor. So like I don't get why her kind of rebelling and like discovering new things and discovering herself has to be like with these bitchy moments where she's calling other girls whores, and like they shouldn't be mad at each other. They should be mad at the douchebag that they both had sex with.
Yeah.
Just my opinion. But
if Tessa is going to forgive Hardin for making this bet and like trying to move past that, then she needs to move past the people who exposed the bet and like told her the truth, you know? Like, she needs to move on with that too. If you're forgiving one who actually did the horrible thing to you, like, forgive the others who just let you know. And I mean, obviously they were shitty friends. Like, she shouldn't be friends with any of them, but...
And that's just why it's such a toxic relationship, is because Tessa's so immature. And that's why it all blows up at the end, is because Tessa can't let go of this mistrust that she has in Hardin. Even though she says she forgives him, she can't let go of what he did, understandably. But she can't stay away from him long enough to like process it and get over it. And then that's why she's doing all these shitty things. Like, she has this in her mind that he's like going behind her back and doing all this stuff and being a shady person. So then she like kisses a guy the second Hardin hurts her feelings or does something that she assumes is cheating but isn't. I don't know. She needs to grow up. Hardin needs to go to therapy. Yeah. That's my diagnosis as a non-professional observer of this relationship. I don't know. I felt like even though like there were cringy things, there were surprisingly a lot of decent things in this movie, I thought.
Yeah, should we just high level? I don't really want to get into anything too deep yet, but Katie, initial reaction, did you like this better than the first movie?
Yes, I did. I enjoyed it more.
Okay.
And there's 2 different directors. The first one had a different director, but I did feel like the second one added some more like heat to it, obviously. But still,
it was a rated R.
Gotcha.
It was rated R versus the first one was PG-13.
Right. Yeah, but it still like maintained the same vibe and tone, I thought.
Interesting.
Like, I thought the aesthetic was the same. The characters were the same. Like, I don't know.
Okay, I want to talk about that.
Okay.
Because I thought the tone was very different, and I thought the characters were very different.
Huh. Okay, I mean, just like the overall aesthetic and like...
I think it looked the same.
Right, that's kind of what I mean.
Like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I like how it's Hardin's narration in this one. Is that how it is in the book?
So the first book is all Tessa's point of view. The second book and third and fourth are dual POV between Hardin and Tessa.
Okay, well,
which I preferred. I much like getting a dual point of view. And I totally agree that in this film, it was so much better to be more of a dual POV between the two of them versus just Tessa.
Yeah, I liked how it opened with his narration and how, like, Hardin's more cynical and, like, critical personality kind of calls out the fact that, like, we've seen this story before. I'm like, yeah, bitch. And how it's, like, an overdone plot and the stereotypical female lead is super, like, evident in the story. And I like how he calls out that he's dramatic and then is was immediately dramatic, like right after that, waking up by a train track. And
that was random.
it was, but I think it was to like introduce that that man that like approaches him and wants to talk to him, and I knew that was going to come back, and like her dad coming back at the end. I don't know. I was like, okay, they tried to do something and they did somewhat of something. So, I don't know.
Katie, you know, on the pod we love a montage.
Mhm.
Did you love the opening montage? Because I know I did.
Yeah, are you talking about like Hardin going to get a tattoo and stuff?
And how that was like then playing back clips from the first movie and stuff.
Yeah. And how he was like laying out the plot and stuff with like the flashbacks to the mom and them having sex and stuff. She gives herself to him. Gag me.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I did like him going to get a tattoo. I'm more intrigued by like Hardin's story and like what he's doing right off the bat. I don't give a fuck about Tessa. I hate Tessa. The way he's dealing with the breakup, because he's never, and his line, okay, when he says I like the pain, that should be a cringy line, but I didn't cringe because I was like, this is interesting. Like his character, this person, he's never dealt with heartbreak like this before. He's never felt this type of pain. So like to say that he likes the pain, it's like, okay, that actually makes sense with this character and shows that he's never been in a relationship like this before. And that is the theme, or not the theme, but like that is his character this entire film. Is he knows that Tessa's the only person for him, apparently. That's what he says. But he is so new at this type of relationship and he wants it to work out. But there's like, he's damaged and, you know, it's hard for him. So I just felt like that line, I like the pain, and him getting a tattoo and everything, it just worked. And I was shocked that I didn't cringe at that. And I just felt like it was a good moment.
I like that you liked more of Hardin's character because I didn't know if you would vibe with that or not. Because me personally, I loved getting more of his character. I liked getting his POV in it. And I liked that we got more of his backstory because in the book, obviously, that's a lot more prevalent. And I felt like Hardin's character was the biggest improvement for me from the first movie to this movie. He was so soft and like he was supposed to be a bad boy in the first movie, but like he's not really a bad boy. This movie, he's toxic, he's volatile, and he's a bad boy. But it was like I was living for every single moment that he was like screaming. He was a lot more
He did scream
like,
a lot.
expressive. Yeah, which in the book he goes from like 0 to 100 all the time. Like he has no chill, and that was much more and that was portrayed a lot more in this film, was like that 0 to 100 kind of mindset that he has and the trigger on his emotions, which I really liked seeing. I was living for the toxicity that was this film. And I liked getting more of his backstory because I think without it, if you're just looking at Hardin, you're like, why are you the way that you are? And you get that little glimpse of the wedding in the first movie when he tells about the story about his mom and some of his resentment towards his dad, but you don't get into that anymore. You get that like one little scene that maybe like 30 seconds to a minute of dialogue, and that's it. Where this, you're seeing him having the nightmares, you're seeing his relationship with his mom, you're seeing even more of his relationship with his dad. I actually loved the scene when he punched his dad at the party. I thought that was actually really great. I thought that you could really see like the pain and resentment that Hardin has towards his dad, and we get so much more of that in the book that I just felt like the Hardin from the first movie was not really anything like the character that was built in the books, where this was a lot closer. And I think that made it stronger because maybe some people like Tess, okay? Tessa's just not my kind of character, and we talked about this in the first episode that we did covering the first movie, that Tessa's not a character that Katie or I jive with.
No.
She's not the kind of character that either of us like. So in this movie, she was fine, but like I don't care about Tessa's story.
Right.
I only care about her in terms of how her relationship affects Hardin, because I like him a lot more as a character. If you're picking between the two, he's the person that I care about getting the backstory, the dialogue, the conflict. Like, I want to see more of that in him, and I don't really care about Tessa. So I'm glad that we got more Hardin in this.
Yeah, and we definitely got more of that in this film. And I think this actor, I think he has potential beyond these films. I would be interested to see him in a more sophisticated role someday, because the thing you mentioned about him screaming and yelling, those moments were so jarring and so true to the character, true to like this emotional turmoil that he's going through and this inability to like control his emotions and his really like visceral reactions to Tessa kissing somebody else in front of him. His anger in those moments were they came through very well on screen, but they weren't always super overdone, which I admired. So I don't know, I could see this actor going on. Whereas, no offense, Miss Langford, but I think this is where you will remain, this realm of films. Which I'm sure you're getting that check, so I would do it too for a check.
I'm sure she's getting some good money. One of the other things too that I liked about this was that Hardin and Tessa's relationship in this was a lot more toxic than in the first movie, which, as Katie, you said earlier on when you were like, all they do is like fight, have sex, make up, fight. Like, that's literally 4 books worth of plot, and I feel like we finally got the toxic fighting that I wanted. I wanted them yelling at each other, I wanted them fighting, and we finally got some of that. And in those moments though, Tessa's just not bringing it. Sorry, Josephine. Like, I don't feel like she is matching Hero's level of commitment. There are certain moments, like when she yells like, there is no your Tessa anymore in the hallway, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. But then their fight out at the New Year's Eve party, I felt way more like visceral emotion out of Hero than I did out of her.
Definitely, yes.
But I thought their chemistry was so much better in this one. Like, you could tell that they were both a lot more comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
And both a lot more comfortable in their roles.
Yeah. I don't know. I obviously didn't love, like, the toxic relationship and everything. I didn't read the book, so, like, that's not what I'm obviously, like, looking for. Yeah, we can get into that more later. It's okay. I will admit this. It's entertaining to watch, but I feel, like, dirty. You know, like, I don't want to be, I don't know.
Do you want to talk about that now, or is there something else that you wanted to jump into first?
I have some more positive things.
Okay, because that'll be all negative. Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of your positive things?
I mean, okay, I thought that the work event that Tessa was at, where it's literally just like a nightclub rager, completely unrealistic, yes, but I did love it. I loved that scene. I just thought it was so fun, and I liked the dual party. Like, they're both at a party and they both are like thinking about each other. I appreciated that. And this whole movie just made me miss partying and made me miss being out at clubs. It made me miss college. Like, the college party, I did think they do a good job of making that authentic, minus the truth or dare. That's not a thing. But I think a college house party, they do kind of nail that. At least the ones that I've been to.
Seeing 3 people drink out of the same bowl, though, I was like, oh,
yeah,
what is that?
Get out. But I can only hope to have a job where it's like you need to drink sex on the beach with a client to get him to land the deal. Like, yeah, hopefully I'm down for sure if I ever need to do that. I liked the roommate when she was like, don't you have some dick to suck? I missed the roommate and I wanted more of her in this movie, but
I did really like that about this movie, where I thought all of the characters were just like a little darker, a little edgier, and like a little more cunning with each other, that their digs at each other just like really went there. Yeah. So then when she said that, I was like, oh shit. It just felt a lot more like true to a college-aged character, where the other one felt, it was like PG-13 insults, where this was like true rated R insults, like going back and forth.
Yeah, except for the whore
really
thing.
Cutting and weird. Yeah,
the whore and the virgin, like, that was annoying. The whole scenario with her spilling wine, like, in a drunken mishap.
Who hasn't done that?
And then we see that Hardin's coming, and then it's like, it was a decent scenario. It was like a good little anxiety-inducing, like, oh no, he's gonna be super mad, and it's gonna look bad, and he's gonna take it the wrong way, and all this stuff. I liked the ice skating scene. I thought it was super fun to see Hardin kind of out of his element. And it was just funny. It was
Hardin is me ice skating. Yeah, I cannot ice skate for shit.
I just like that idea of like doing a perfect date for somebody. I think that's super cute. But it was all ruined when he tells her that she is a nice bum at yoga, and I hate PDA. Like, for me, that yoga session would have been my absolute nightmare. And when he's like, are you turned on? I would have been like, no. Like, what are you trying to do? Have sex in front of all these people at hot yoga? I'm gross. I'm disgusting. And when she's like, just let me shower, that is me. I don't want to kiss anybody if I haven't brushed my teeth. I don't want to like be near anybody if I haven't showered. Like, I just want to be clean. That whole scenario is my nightmare. And him being like, you have such a nice bum. I would have kicked him in the face because we are in public, sir. Like, that is not all right. Control yourself. Jeez. When they're in the shower and we see his booty.
I scream.
He has a perfectly shaved ass. I've never met a guy who has that going on, but okay. And it was...
Do you think he had a butt double?
Maybe. I don't know. It just didn't look right. But then I was like really hyper focused on his butt the rest of the time, like, and how it looked in his pants. And it did kind of look like, it looks like really small and weird, but I don't know. I'm not a butt analysis person, but...
You're not a butt analyst.
It just looked like, it was not how I pictured his butt. I just think all of these scenarios clicked for me as like, they're so fan fiction. Like, they all are just... I think to me, that's just why they don't make sense, is because they completely disregard all laws of reality and normal human interaction and lifestyle, because they're somebody's fantasy, which is fine. And in this episode, I don't want to like kink shame or like fetish shame or fantasy shame or anything, but this is like taking it to another level in a way. And so yeah, just like the whole perfect day scenario of like going ice skating, then going to yoga, and then showering and like all this stuff, and Tessa having an internship when she's a first semester freshman, and like the timeline of all of this, when you think about it, it's just so fantastical, and it really doesn't add up. And to watch this movie, you can't be focused on that. That's just like something that, again, I struggle with. When that all clicked for me, I found it more enjoyable.
Yeah, I will agree. I think this movie is packed full of cliches. That's kind of what I expected when we're talking like first movie versus second movie. I liked this one better, and I think it's because it met every single one of my expectations. And my expectations were not high. I literally just wanted to be entertained. I wanted it to be like a little more toxic and closer to the book.
Yeah.
And I just wanted something to like sit back and enjoy, that I could just kind of like turn my mind off and mindlessly watch some drama unfold. And it hit all of those expectations for me. So is this like Oscar worthy? No, but I was not expecting it to be. If you're expecting the like acting to be phenomenal, the plot lines to be all completely fleshed out, the dialogue to be stellar, like, this is not the movie for you.
No,
but
you
if you
can't.
go in like expecting it to be fan fiction-y and a little fluffier, but also like kind of dark with some of the like tone in this one, at least I thought. I want to get into tone with you, but I think like expectations wise, mine were met for this,
for sure,
for what I was wanting out of it.
Yeah, same. I was like hoping, my expectations were the same as yours, low, and like I wanted to be entertained, and I was entertained, and I was hoping that it would be a little bit better than the first one, since like we were hearing rumblings that it was really good and that the heat level was going to be taken up a notch, and that expectation was met for sure. Would I like to be in some of these situations, like, you know, fantasizing about like putting myself in Tessa's shoes? Sure, maybe once in a blue moon, or like, but would I want this for a relationship, for my life? Hell no. And if you're noticing that that's how you feel when you're watching this movie, question that, interrogate that.
For my book people who've read the book, I want to real quick run down some of the like blaring differences and similarities. I haven't read this book since last year. I had started rereading it in hopes to like finish it before the movie came out. I only got like to like page 250 because I was just reading other books and I was more into them, so I kind of put it to the wayside. Yeah. The biggest difference is the opening sequence at Vance, completely different than how it is in the book, which again, I'm not going to say that necessarily any of these differences are bad things. They're just things that I'm noting that were different. The conference in Seattle, we were missing a lot of things that were similar to the book. It was pretty different. Trevor and Tessa's relationship is a lot different. Trevor's character is just a lot different. In the book, like I said, he's much more stereotypical, like good guy, and in this, he's really not. I mean, like, he's nicer, but he's a bit of an asshole, where, or at least I thought so, where in the book he's not. He's very like prim and proper. Christian's character as well is super different. Christian, I don't know. he's just super different. If you've read the book, you know. Hardin doesn't know about the job offer in this book that Tessa gets to go to Seattle. She gets it towards the end of the book, I believe, and she knows that she wants to accept it when Hardin goes and gets this tattoo on his back, which then turns into a fight in the third book that he's like, I got this tattoo about never wanting to get separated from you when you knew that you were leaving to Seattle.
That's good.
Also, Zed, once again, his character in the first movie was like kind of washed out, where in the book he's a huge character, and in this book specifically, he is a giant character in this book. It's not really a love triangle between Tessa, Trevor, and Hardin. It's much more like Tessa, Hardin, and Zed in the book. Trevor's like a minor character. Yeah, she like goes on a date with him, but he's never really like in the running. Or Zed is like a really big character. It did include a lot of the same. Like I said, the tone was very similar to the book, or a lot more similar. The spice level was definitely closer to the book. The toxic relationship was much closer to the book. Hardin was, as well as a lot of the scenes, albeit some slight differences, like Hardin's mom visiting, the Kindle gift, ice skating, yoga, New Year's Eve. Like I feel like for the most part they captured a lot of the like biggest scenes and did put them into this, which is cool. But there was one scene that I missed because, Katie, this is where I think you would have seen Trish being more of like, my son sucks and like I can't defend his behavior. So in the book, Tessa and Hardin's mom are all chilling at their apartment when Tessa's mom shows up after she like leaves after their fight and being frustrated, and she shows up and she says in front of Hardin's mom the bet, which obviously in the book we know the bet was worse than in the movie. But she shows up and is like, did you know what your son did? And like the moms kind of get into it for a bit until Trish hears that Hardin made this bet. And she was like, you did this again, because he had done this to a girl in London before. Hardin has a history of making bets on women in the books. And his mom was aware of that, but she didn't know that he did that to Tessa. And when she finds that out, she pulls Tessa aside and she's like, Tessa, you need to leave with your mom. She's like, this is not right for you. Like, you need to get away from this. And I just missed that because in the book it's such an explosive scene, because you have Tessa's mom who is wild, you have Hardin who is wild, and then Tessa who is like becoming less in control of her emotions, and then Trish, she's like a bit of a badass, but then when she finds out about Hardin, obviously sides with Tessa's mom on this. So I missed that scene. I wish that Trish would have had that moment to be like, Hardin, and like smack him upside the head.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
I would have liked that a lot too.
I think you would have appreciated that
for
scene,
sure,
especially knowing that you weren't like the biggest fan of Trish,
right?
Which I totally agreed with your other stuff on Trish, but just saying. Yeah. Some miscellaneous notes that I had quick. I just want to say those poor other people staying in the hotel when they're screaming in the hallway. I'm shocked they didn't get kicked out. I liked that she wore like a sexier red dress to the New Year's Eve party for the frat party, because in the first movie she wears like that really conservative red dress. So I just felt like we had two different red dresses, two different Tessas. It really showed like her character change from the first movie to the second. Right. And like a very subtle detail. Yeah. So I did like that. Zed is kind of doing it for me in this movie. He's hot. Yeah. The cab driver as a star, I thought she made the most of her moments in the film, the very small moments that there were. And we love a nice little author cameo. Once again, I think if you turn a book into a movie and if the author is involved, I like to see a little cameo made.
Where was she?
She was at the club when they're like having a little conversation in a booth, and it's very brief, and you hear someone ask her like, oh, so what have you written? And she's like, oh, this and that, and it pans. That was her. Cute. So I just think like, you know, it's cool if you put a little cameo in. I don't think, now thinking about it, I don't think Suzanne Collins was in any of the Hunger Games, but I don't think she was like as involved with those. Where like Veronica Roth, she made a cameo in the first Divergent film, and Anna Todd was in the first After film for a little moment. So
Stephanie Meyer was in Twilight.
Yeah. I just think like if I ever publish a book and would ever have a movie made of any of my books, I want a cameo.
Working for a publishing company is a stereotype that I'm just over, particularly because in this movie it's like so glamorous, and I don't know a whole lot about like working for a publishing company and everything, but Anastasia works at a publishing company in 50 Shades of Grey. Like, it's just such a stereotype for the girl who like romanticizes these types of relationships and finds herself in the relationships that she reads about. Like, I don't know, I'm just over it. Think of something new.
Yeah. And the fact that she has her own office.
Yeah, no, this whole internship doesn't happen. If you're in the time of your life where you're applying for internships, this isn't
You're not
this
gonna
isn't the
love
deal,
this.
honey. Most likely you're not
No.
even getting paid.
Even like a real job is not like this.
No.
It's just
No.
it's not. And also they're still supposed to be in college, but we never see her going to class in this one. Which
No.
granted, a lot of it does happen over Christmas break, but still we like never have any mention of college, which I just think is interesting.
Well, yeah, and she's
that
a
they just
first
shove out the
semester
wind.
freshman. Like the
Yeah.
timeline of this. So the first movie takes place when college first starts for Tessa, and then it ends at some point, but we pick up in this film around fall time. Like she gets this internship and then it goes until Christmas. This is a very short amount of time. These people have been together, if they like started school in August, they've known each other for like 4 or 5 months. Like that's the span of these two films. It's a very short amount of time.
It's a semester of college.
Right.
And then a winter
first
break.
semester of college, she already has an apartment. She already has an internship that is like wanting her to transfer schools because she's that good. It's a fantasy. Like this is a fantastical story. It's just,
which is fine.
It's fine
because
yeah.
it is fiction. But just saying, people, if that's your expectation, lower them.
Not how it's gonna be. Yeah, and that's a very common trend in films like this. Timelines being so short, and this relationship like moving very quickly. Twilight, for example, takes place. When did they meet? Like her junior year,
I think. I saw this TikTok where it broke down the whole timeline of it, and I should have saved it.
Yeah, but it's a very short amount of time regardless. They meet like sophomore or junior year, pretty sure it's junior year, and then Edward leaves for like more than half the time, and then they get married, and then she's pregnant. Like it's a common theme for relationships like this, and it's because their love is so intense, but it's capturing the infatuation period of relationships. Relationships like this are not a lifetime thing in reality. I just want to make that super clear for like any young people listening and watching these movies. Enjoy them. Not judging you for being entertained by this movie. I'm entertained by it too, and I like inserting myself in this position. That's the whole point of fan fiction, is to like insert yourself into the main character. I would argue that that's the point of like all movies, is to insert yourself into that situation and say, what would I do and stuff. Be critical of this on some level, and if you ever find yourself in a situation like this, please take it seriously. And like, it shouldn't be romanticized like this. You shouldn't be in a situation like this. It's not healthy. It's not good for you. And I don't say that to like be a downer and like rain on our parade or anything, because I do like discussing this movie and it's fun to talk about. But I've been in situations like this. I've seen friends in situations like this, so I can't just not say anything.
You have the same opinions as a lot of people do with the toxicity of their relationship, and how you said that you felt dirty watching this. It is so romanticized, where my stance on it, I'm like, it's fiction, it's a book, that's plot to these stories, is like them fighting and making up, and no, like that's not something that I want for my life. And I know that I can read this or watch this and be entertained by it and know that like I can separate fiction and reality. But I think with this specifically, and why you kind of have an issue with it, is because it is targeted at younger audiences who have a harder time, or could potentially have a harder time, separating fiction and reality.
Right.
Where as us being 23, that's not even old. Like, I'm not trying to be like, oh, we're 23.
Right, no.
But I think because like we can look at this a couple steps back and acknowledge that. And I think with like a lot of the material that I read, I have to like know that I'm separating like reality and fantasy from each other. That it's easier for me to like click that on and off now, where younger audiences can't do that as much. So while I'm super entertained by the toxicity of their relationship in this movie in particular, it's not necessarily the greatest thing for younger audiences to be seen.
Right.
But granted, this is rated R.
It is rated R. I was going to
like,
say, yeah. I mean, the filmmakers, producers are making an effort to target an older audience with this film, but the fact that it's being released digitally, it's like, you know, you can only do so much at the end of the day. Yeah. And if young people want to see this, they're going to see it. Like you were saying, you know, for yourself, it's fiction. And obviously, like, I'm telling myself that too. But for some people, like, this is this isn't fiction and like people find themselves in situations like this. These types of relationships have been romanticized since we were young. Toxic, moving too fast, seemingly healthy, but just not good relationships since we were young. And like,
I'd
young,
argue like back even
for
before
sure.
us, like for
Yeah.
stories, for as long as stories have been around,
For sure.
this like sort of toxic relationship has always been romanticized.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and they talk about in the movies, like the old
The
classic
classics.
novels that Tessa loves all follow this kind of same pattern. A girl trying to find herself falls in love with a guy who like helps her find herself, but in like a not good way, but we don't recognize that. We don't call it out. And we've been romanticizing these types of relationships, like Michaela said, for so long. Like, this is the same relationship in Twilight, in 50 Shades of Grey, in The Kissing Booth. And it's not a critique on the relationships. It's painting it in a desirable light. And you could argue that more people who are more mature are able to like distinguish that and realize that, but any age there's toxic relationships, like, and when you're in one, it's harder to recognize that and realize that. And movies like this don't help at all, because it's kind of just like, well, if you really love each other, like, you'll make it work. And it's gonna, if you really love someone, that doesn't justify you being treated poorly or you treating somebody poorly.
And in the not even defending, showing this kind of relationship on screen. However, I will say it does make for a more dynamic plot.
Yeah.
And a more dynamic viewing experience. And if you think about it, watching like a super healthy, functional relationship play out on screen is not going to be the most entertaining thing.
Right.
I'm not saying that that's like a good thing or a bad thing, or like it would be awesome to see more like a striving or thriving healthy relationships on screen. However, you're just not going to get that because people would be bored watching that. Where in real life, hopefully you can acknowledge that that is what you would want for yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know what I'm trying to say with that.
I
I'm
totally
just saying that, like,
see what
I think it makes sense of why we've seen these stories over and over and over again, because they work on screen and they work in novels.
Exactly. What I'm just tired of is like characters like Tessa. It's like they're trying to portray a woman who's like discovering herself and like finding success in her career, but like having these relationship problems. And it's just not an authentic portrayal. Like, in the first movie, she's barely going to class. She's struggling in school, but then lands this dream of an internship, which we, I guess, find out Hardin pretty much got her the job. So I don't know. If you want to show a woman like finding herself, and a new adult book or story or movie focused on a girl like finding herself in college and everything, like, I'm totally down for that, but it shouldn't have to be like toxic, violent ass dude evoking that change in her. I wish that would be just my like choice in film that I would want to watch and would want to be like perpetuated in the media. But I think the lines they're only being blurred more. I think people are struggling to distinguish fiction from reality. I think it's moving in a direction that it's like it's getting harder to distinguish that, or like people aren't distinguishing that as well. Like, it's moving in the wrong direction in my opinion. If you go on TikTok, like, obviously Draco TikTok is a big thing right now that we talked about, like, which it's all good and fine and whatever, people love Harry Potter, but romanticizing a character like Draco, he's not a good character. And some of these TikToks are like, he's a good guy, and like kind of getting into Draco's character more and wanting to see like more of Draco's character, but some of them are like, Draco's mistreating me and we have this toxic relationship and blah blah blah. So we're still seeing this in the new form of media that is TikTok, and there's even people who think that they can shift into the Harry Potter reality, and like, people want this fiction to be reality in some cases, and it worries me that these are the stories that like are making the cut and being told.
While we're on this topic, then we can kind of wrap up like this like
I want to move on
conversation.
It's like sad.
I just want to ask you, Katie, I wanted to know if it caught your eye, because this one scene is like, I think the biggest point of contention in the second book among critics of being like crossed a line for some people, where in the books you obviously get more context and you're in Tessa's head in this, but when Hardin goes to Seattle and Tessa is drunk and he is not, and they have sex, did that like catch you wrong watching the movie at all?
The first sex scene in the movie?
When she's like, you either fuck me or you leave, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't love it, of course. I think he was asking for consent. He was like, are you sure? I mean, it wasn't great, but it could have been worse. And I don't feel good about saying that. Like, come for me all you want. Like, I probably should criticize this scene more, but in the grand scheme of things and with how problematic these films can be at times, I think it could have been worse. He asked for consent. He had a condom. She kind of made it very clear that, like, I'm drunk and I want to have sex with you right now. I'm going to be mad about it in the morning. And that all played out and was true, but she wasn't like, I didn't want to have sex with you the next morning, you know? And he's like, should we talk about it? And all this stuff. Like, he is thinking about it, if that makes sense. Like, it's on his radar. And he doesn't want to be taking advantage of her. And he gets on Trevor for, he's assuming that that's what Trevor was going to do. And, like, he doesn't like that. And he says he doesn't want to do that, but then he ends up doing it. And I think it's just, like, showing how weak Hardin can be when it comes to Tessa. Yeah, if somebody's drunk, maybe don't have sex with them. And, like, giving consent drunk is a gray area. And especially if you're at this point in your relationship where it's like you're not together and it's, you know, that can, again, just be a very toxic and vicious cycle. If you want to avoid conflict and have genuine consent, wait till you're sober. And then if you're in, like, a good place in your relationship and you're both drunk and, like, saying you want to have sex when you're drunk, that's probably fine. But, I mean, you just have to gauge the situation. Like, I don't know. Just be smart. Don't have sex with somebody if you shouldn't be. I don't know.
I was just interested if it caught your eye at all, because I was kind of surprised that they kept it in. I mean, granted, we saw it in the teaser trailer, that line.
Yeah.
But I was just surprised that they chose to keep this scene in from the book, because it was, I mean, obviously from, like, most people reading the book, they didn't really care, but from, like, the people who really harshly criticized the books, which there are a bunch of people, they were like, this scene they thought is problematic.
It is,
and I'm not going to, like, disagree with them. I think in the book you do get more, like, Hardin does resist a lot more and Tessa does push a lot more. And then in the morning, like, Tessa says multiple times in her POV and in her brain, she's like, I don't regret what I did, blah, blah, blah. So you can get that in the book where you know that, like, she doesn't feel like that Hardin kind of, like, tricked her into anything. I was just surprised that they chose to put it in the movie.
Yeah.
Because you can't get into Tessa's head and hear those thoughts, and you can only have Hardin saying, like, no, I don't want to take advantage of you so many times, where in the book it's repeated over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Where in the movie he pretty much only says it once. But yes, he did get consent. But it's just, like, a gray area.
It is.
Like you said, it's a gray area, and I'm just very surprised that they put it in.
It is kind of, like, too much of a gray area to be putting in, again, like, a film that young kids are going to see one way or another. Whereas, like, you and I can kind of distinguish, and it's just hard. Like, you can't, each situation regarding, like, consent and when alcohol is involved, like, it's different, and you really have to, like, gauge the situation and do what's right in that moment. And what was probably right in this moment was for Hardin to leave, but that's not the story. It's like these two can't resist each other, and that's just what the story is. And it wouldn't be this story if he did leave. However, when you're, again, showing this situation to young people, if they're ever in a situation like this or a similar situation where it's, like, even more of a gray area and, like, consent is just may or may not have been given and it's, like, alcohol is involved again, it's just hard. So I do worry about stuff like that being portrayed, but it didn't necessarily bother me maybe as much as it should have. I don't know.
Yep, I think it's situational, and I don't think that this is, like, the realm that people should be learning anything about it from.
Definitely.
You shouldn't be learning anything from these movies.
Yeah. But we don't talk
general.
about, like, consent enough. It's not like schools are having this conversation, so it's like, where else are people going to learn it from necessarily?
Yeah. First thing that I want to dive into quickly, I don't know if it'll be super quick, but you said at the beginning of this that you thought that the tone felt very similar and that you thought the characters felt very similar. I wanted to know that, Katie, as you, as someone who hasn't read the books, I wanted to know if you could tell the tone difference from the first movie to this, but thinking that you, like, might have thought the same thing that I did, but you didn't, but you thought that the tone felt very similar. So I want to know, like, just your thoughts on the tone and, like, the characters in general, on how you thought that they felt similar from the first movie.
I think I more meant, like, the visual, like, the way the film was shot, the way the story was told, it felt similar, but I definitely felt like the plot was turned up a notch, like, the heat of everything was turned up a notch, the heat of their relationship, and again, just, like, that cycle of, like, fucking fighting, blowing up, and, like, leaving, that was definitely different than the first movie, but still, I don't know how to describe it. I just felt like it was the same situation, the same characters, just all turned up a notch. I didn't feel like these were two different characters. I felt like it was Tessa has changed. I'm not going to say matured because I think she's super immature and that's like her flaw in this relationship. But she's experienced a lot more. She's lost her virginity. She has this job. She's been going to college and meeting all these friends and drinking. And, you know, so she's changed and evolved from who she was in the first movie. So like Tessa is turned up and she kind of has like more autonomy. She's more comfortable with herself and like kind of speaking up for herself more, like yelling and fighting with Hardin and calling Molly a whore, which I don't agree with, but you know, she's more outspoken. But the same Tessa, you know, the same girl that we met in the first movie. And same with Hardin, like we're getting a more vulnerable side to him as we see him just really in love with Tessa. We're getting more of his backstory, but I felt like it was the same character just turned up a notch. And then their relationship in general.
I think everything from like the first movie was just amplified and darker. I think it almost reminded me of 50 Shades in a way where like the first movie was like the trial run a bit and 50 Shades Darker was like a little darker, a little edgier. I thought the characters like Jamie and Dakota felt much more comfortable in each of their roles and like much more comfortable in making them a little more three-dimensional, and I felt the same exact way about Josephine and Hero with Hardin and Tessa. I felt like both of them felt angstier and edgier and darker, which I really liked. I think the tone in the second book is very similar to the first book. However, it finally matched the film, if that makes sense. Like the first movie did not feel like the first book, but the second movie feels more similar to the tone of the books, which I liked a lot. And I thought that all of the characters, like we kind of talked about a bit earlier, they were all like turned up a notch. The spice level, obviously that was as well, which I mean, it's kind of like 50 Shades. Like, what do you want? Do you really want all the talking? Like, I mean, we need some of those times thrown in here. And like, it's such a huge part of the book is them just having sex. So obviously we like need that in the film more. But I think that the relationships with the characters and like the comebacks and the banter and stuff just felt much more accurate, I guess. And like I said, edgier and just turned up from the first movie, which I liked the tone of this one better. And I think that has to come with the director change too. I would not want to see a PG-13 rating on this movie, and not the third book either, and definitely not the fourth book. Like they gotta keep, I'm sure they will keep the R rating on the next two as well. Like it should have been R from the beginning. This has never been a PG-13 plot.
It's crazy how similar this actually is to 50 Shades of Grey. Like how the first movie leaves off with them like breaking up. The second one is him immediately trying to get her back and like, I can't live without you and all this stuff. And the main character, the female protagonist, like evolving and becoming more sure of herself now that she's been penetrated and all this stuff. Like it's very, very similar even to the the publishing job thing. The male character too, like the childhood trauma and that like feeding into their anger or their like controlling nature. That's very similar in 50 Shades and this. And I also don't like how that is used to justify the behavior.
Katie, one thing that bothered me about this movie that I want to get your thoughts on is that they never have a conversation acknowledging the actions from the first movie and like moving past it and getting back together. They basically just start having sex and they're like back in a relationship. They never really talk about it. And I wanted to know if, as someone like yourself who has not read the books, did everything make sense to you? Like plot wise, filling in those holes? Because for me, I can fill in the details that I've read and fill them in the movie, where you don't have that watching this. So like the flow, the plot, them getting back together all of a sudden, like did all of that make sense to you, or did it feel like holy here and there? Or not holy. What do I
like there's
the gaps.
I don't know. I mean, obviously this movie doesn't make sense to me because it's like, who is doing this in a 5-month period? But all that aside, it did flow for me. It did make sense because right off the bat they established like they can't stay away from each other no matter what. Both of them kind of feel the same way and like, I love you, but I hate you. They just both kind of acknowledge that right off the bat. There's no real resistance. As soon as Tessa is like calling him drunkenly, like she's drunk, but then like even after that, she's like still wanting things to happen. So I don't know. I just think it didn't make sense, but it did. The
Okay.
action that I saw on screen did make sense. Obviously, it's problematic that they never address the fact that, you know, he played her in the first movie. They never have a conversation about that. But again, it's like, that's their flaw. That's these characters' issue, is like they're not doing the serious work that needs to be done in a relationship. They're just having all the fun parts that come with being in a new relationship or just being in a relationship in general. But then that kind of blows up in their face. And the fact that they never sit down and have a conversation creates the issue later of Tessa just not being able to trust him and assuming all these things about him. I mean, that aids the conflict that happens later in the film.
Exactly.
So,
the lack of communication was accurate.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have good communication, and that it was only more showcased in this by them never really talking about anything.
right. Relationships are super fun, and like there's all these fun things that come with having somebody that you really vibe with and like spending time with. And that's the infatuation period of a relationship. It's just like all you want to do is be around them. And maybe there's some red flags or like some things that you guys like butt heads on, but you just overlook it and you don't talk about it and you just like push it down because you love spending time with that person so much and you love being around them. But that only lasts for so long, and at some point, no matter how far down the line and no matter how much you love somebody, you're gonna clash at some point. And these two are already clashing within the first 5 minutes of them knowing each other. So of course they're gonna clash when they're being in a romantic relationship. You have to address that at some point. You can't just fuck away the issues. Like, I'm sorry. That doesn't work for anybody. And that's, you know, that's the conflict. That's the plot in this movie. And it works for the movie. But again, like, there's no such thing. There is such thing as this kind of relationship. Like, if all you want to do is have sex, this is how your relationship is going to go. Especially if you have conflicting personalities like this. At some point, you have to sit down and talk things out and address the issues. Sex will always be there, but like, you gotta communicate. You have to talk about it.
And they aren't very good at doing that. So, which once again, it makes the plot more interesting.
Right.
If they did just air out everything right at the beginning, if at the New Year's Eve party, Tessa would have just been like, hey, can you please tell me who that girl was that you were just with? And like very calmly asked him and they had a discussion about it. Obviously, they would never fight, but that would make no fun to watch.
Right. And I've seen relationships where it is like this vicious cycle where it's like, we're broken up, fuck that guy, and then they get back together and all this stuff. And they do, like, sometimes people genuinely do want to be together. And the magic solution is literally just like sitting down and airing out your shit and talking about it. And then, oh my God, magically, we're in a good and healthy relationship. Sometimes that's all it takes. It's not that complicated. I think Tess and Hardin could potentially work it out, but they have to do some serious work on themselves. Tessa should maybe like go to college, go to class that she's enrolled in. Hardin should...
I'm excited for the third book.
Yes.
Because there is a lot more of her going. And actually, the fourth book, like, they take a long ass break from each other, which they need.
Yeah.
And you can tell that it's like healthy for them. I'll be interested to see that play out. But that I want to talk about at the end of the episode, like the future.
One question I did have was about, like, again, going back to the Harry Styles, like, fan fiction. I had to keep reminding myself of that because, like, obviously Hardin, like, does not fit my image of the type of person that Harry Styles is. And I know that this isn't who Harry Styles is. This is made up. Again, it's a fantasy. It's not true. Like, Harry is a genuinely good person. I know he is. I was trying to figure out who Trevor was supposed to represent, if he's meant to represent anybody, and I was wondering if you knew that.
I don't think so, but then again, like I've said, people, like, I read the first book before I knew that it was Harry Styles fan fiction, so I never pictured any of these people as like One Direction members, and I still don't in my head. Like, even when I was rereading the second book, I picture like now the characters in the movie. Like, I don't see them as being One Direction people. One, that just creeps me out. I have an issue with fan fiction when it's about real people. If you want to write it about made up people like Harry Potter, if you want to write Draco fan fiction, knock yourself out. But the fact that it's like about a real person who like seems to be so lovely, but then you're writing them to be like such a shitty person, I think that's weird. So I don't think Trevor is supposed to be anyone. I think the main people are like Hardin is Harry Styles, Zed is Zayn, Landon, I think, is Liam Payne, and then Louis and Niall are Nate and some other person, but like they aren't in this movie whatsoever.
Okay.
Like the main two people, the main One Direction members, I think were like Harry and Zayn.
Yeah.
But I don't think Trevor is supposed to represent anyone real. I think he's like a made up character.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I was just wondering.
But I mean, like real diehard day one after fans, if we're wrong on that, please let us know, because I've never known it as like the One Direction version.
Right, for sure.
One thing that I wanted to know, like we acknowledge this is a new adult film and that it is rated R. However, it is kind of hard to not compare it to other like teen movies, other YA movies that we tend to see, just because we really don't have any other young adult movies. Like I can't really think of a lot that are considered young adult, that are like seen as romance movies, because obviously there are a bunch of like party college movies, etc. But I'm trying to think of like specific love stories in college. And
yeah, there's not a lot.
I can't really think of any.
I mean, Kissing Booth is kind of like moving in that direction.
Oh, I guess so. And the Kissing Booth is also Wattpad.
Yeah.
But Katie, I just want to know, kind of thinking like Kissing Booth to All the Boys I Loved Before, you know, kind of comparisons, or just like teen romance movies in general. Yeah. Like, how do you think it fares compared to the others?
I don't know. I think it's so similar. Like, it's following the same formula as, like, obviously 50 Shades isn't a teen thing, but it's kind of a new adult. Like, she's in grad school, so maybe not necessarily, but... And then it's following the same formula, I would say, as, like, Kissing Booth, with, like, the quirky female character who is a virgin tripping through life, and this guy comes along and like shows her the way, but he's like super aggressive. I don't know. I don't want to say like one is better than the other. I think I like this one. I like After more than the Kissing Booth and more than To All the Boys I Loved Before, just because it has, like you were talking about, that darker side to it, bit more realistic. I mean, obviously this is not realistic at all, but like I was saying, the partying scenes I thought were more true to like college lifestyle.
I think the characters being imperfect, where like I think the characters in like Kissing Booth and To All the Boys I Loved Before, especially To All the Boys I Loved Before, everyone is kind of like perfect in those. I say quote unquote, but they're much more likable and they make definitely not as many mistakes. Where in After, I think like you're watching it and it just feels more realistic in that way, of people making mistakes, people fighting, jumping to conclusions, like that feels more real life.
Yeah, and I think some of the interactions in After are a bit more authentic, like you were saying, the jarring or the like jabs at each other and just the banter between college people I felt was a little bit more authentic, but still, I mean, it's not super realistic, but whatever. Yeah. And then I think, like, as far as teen movies, I don't know. It's just, like, nothing can prepare you for real young adulthood. And that's just what I'll say. I mean, The Fault in Our Stars. I enjoy this more than, like, that. I enjoy this more than, what was that one movie we were talking about, Before I Fall? Is that the one? That's a good one.
If I Stay.
Oh, If I Stay. Before I Fall is a different one. If I Stay is a good teen love movie. Granted, I saw that like when I was young and stupid, so I would need to rewatch, but
I have it on our list for us to rewatch.
I want to rewatch it. That one's kind of darker too, if I do recall. So
I agree. I like this a lot more than pretty much all other. I mean, literally no YA movie will ever top The Spectacular Now for me. Kind of like how Lady Bird will ever. But those are not in the same genre. I don't even compare those to this.
Yeah.
This though is like a bit more of like the nitty gritty, the angsty, the darkness that I'm looking for now. When I was younger, I don't know if I would have I'm sure I would have ate this shit up when we were like 17, if this would have come out when we were back in high school. But I think now, or back then, I would have probably gone for like a bit more of like the light and fluffy, where now I don't really want anything super light and fluffy. Maybe it's just like my mood and like the seasons changing and quarantine and like the world going to shit, that like I want like darkness, and I want people fighting. I want the drama.
Yeah.
That this is kind of everything that I want right now, so I'm not mad at it.
You know, I guess that's kind of same for me too. Like, if I'm gonna watch a love movie, which I don't typically gravitate towards, this is the type that I am into. Like, I do like the Twilight movies. Like, it's a guilty pleasure watch for me. I like watching the 50 Shades. I don't really feel the need to, like, oh my god, I suffered through 51st Dates and I wanted to shoot myself. Like, I hate that type of stuff.
Like
I
the
just
rom-com?
yeah, I hate Adam Sandler. And I don't hate rom-coms, but like it's definitely not what I gravitate towards and it's definitely not what I'm in the mood for right now. So that does make a good point. Even though I think this is a super problematic like way to tell a story, I would much rather watch this than fucking 51st Dates again. Like I will watch this 1,000 times before I watch that movie again.
I can already tell, like, this movie would be one that would turn into a comfort movie for me. Like, the first After movie is a comfort movie for me. Just, like, I can turn it on, tune out, not really have to pay too close of an attention. Katie and I might do an episode on our comfort movies coming up so we can, like, dive more into, like, why certain things are, like, our comfort movies.
Yeah.
But this is just, like, it kind of checked every box for me of what I want right now. And I was here for it. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that until you brought that up. Like, I'm gonna criticize it, but also, like, what else do you want, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what more do you expect from this? It is fan fiction. Like, what are you expecting?
And there's not that many, like, critically acclaimed romance movies. There are movies that are, like, a love story. Like, Moonlight is kind of a love story, but you wouldn't say that that's a romantic movie.
No.
And, like, Titanic maybe is the one, like, critically acclaimed romantic, but again it's like it's dark, there's other stuff going on and it's like a crazy tumultuous time.
It's based on true history,
right?
You know?
Yeah,
like where this is just super focused on a relationship, like just two people. It's not really involving like a world or like these catastrophic events.
Yeah,
it's kind of giving you what you're asking for.
It is like this is really all you can ask for. Like it's hard to make a really good romance movie that really resonates with people and that people can relate to, because romance and love is so personal. And for some people, yeah, you can relate to it, but for like you might be able to resonate with some people, but not everybody. Like it can come off kind of hokey when you're like reading someone's interpretation of love, because like you just don't vibe with it and that's not your love language. Like I don't want a man to be like coming after me if I have amnesia. I want him to leave me alone. But that fucking floats some people's boats. And will I ever understand that? No. But I can just not watch that movie while some people can watch it and love it, because that apparently is like what they like. So I don't know.
That's so funny.
I
remember when Jack IM'd me and she was like, Katie spent the whole, and he was just like, Katie just spent the whole movie roasting Adam Sandler.
I hate him so much. This is just a fun question, but I wanted to ask because I did really appreciate the like perfect date scenario, and I would literally love it if somebody did that for me. Babe, if you're listening. So I'm just wondering, like, what would your perfect day look like if your partner or whoever you are with was like, okay, I'll say yes to everything, I'll pay for everything. Like, what are you doing?
This is no pandemic, right?
Right. Yes.
This is a no pandemic world. Let's see. I don't know. I'd want to wake up in the morning and I would want to go get breakfast somewhere because breakfast food is my favorite food. So I'd love to go out to breakfast and grab some coffee. And then maybe if we could take it to like a park, or ideally if we lived by like a lake or an ocean or something, we could take it and eat it there. That would be nice. I would like to go to a bookstore and like walk around, buy some books. I'd like to go to a movie. I sound so basic. I'd like to go out to lunch, and then maybe like I don't know. I want to do a rage room. That is so random.
Oh,
but
that's
like you
fun.
know those rooms where you can just destroy things.
Yeah.
I think that would be so much fun that I would really like to do one of those. I don't know if I'd put that in this perfect day scenario. That just was one thing that popped into my mind that I would like to do. I don't know though. The thing with I like knowing what we're doing, and I'm a big planner, as Katie knows. Like whenever we're planning like group activities, I'm the one who's always like, okay, what time are we leaving? What time are we meeting up? Who's driving? Like I'm the one about the details. But I don't necessarily like doing that. It's because I have anxiety and OCD that I need to be the person in charge of those plans. Honestly, if I'm talking like a perfect day, I would rather screw all of that. I would rather have my partner know me good enough that he could plan out everything and that I would not have to have any worry about like driving there, timing, like he takes care of all of that, and I could like shut off my brain and just enjoy a day knowing that like he planned things that he knew I would like.
Cool.
But, like, it would probably include going to, like, a bookstore, going to a movie. I don't know, that's a tough question, and I just gave a really long, like, not good answer. Katie, what would yours be?
So I kind of am like you, like I like to have things planned out, and I also don't like choosing things, like, you know, when it's like, where do you want to go to eat? I'm just like, wherever you want to go
don't
is
like
fine.
cooking.
Like, but to just know that, like, whatever you want to do, that's what we're doing. Like, that would be fun. So I don't know. I think I would like to keep a study buzz all day. So like to wake up with mimosas and maybe coffee from like Starbucks or something, and you know, have breakfast at home, maybe in bed, and then like go for a run or a walk or like a hike or something after our food digests, and then maybe like go shopping if he's paying for everything. Like I would want to go to Target or like get some candles or something, or maybe go to like some cute little knick-knacky type shops like the ones that are in downtown Madison or something.
Yeah, those are really cute.
Love that. And then like get some Moscow mules and go out for lunch, like have a nice yummy sandwich. And I don't know, I'm pretty simple. Like I like playing Scrabble, so maybe finish the day like having dinner and drinks and playing Scrabble and like watching a movie, and then just like smoking a quick bowl and go to bed.
That sounds like a great day.
I know.
See, I like that you want to talk about a steady buzz. I could not start drinking in the morning. I can't do steady drinking like you can.
I can't either. I mean, I typically get hungover in the middle of the day, but
exactly. Or I get so tired when I'm drinking that I have like a solid 3-ish hours, depending on the like mood of the people around me, when I'm drinking, to be like really fun and having a good time. But I will go from 100 to 0 to like needing to fall asleep. I used to fall asleep at our high school parties, like under the pong table all the time. Like not passing out, I would literally just fall asleep.
She would just go to sleep, yeah.
That I couldn't do that. Like if I need to maintain a good day, I need to start drinking at like 5 p.m. at the earliest.
That's what I'm saying.
Also, I just thought about this. Oh, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's just like a perfect scenario would be that I maintain that buzz, but I've literally maybe achieved that like once in my life. It's so hard to do.
I'd say maybe a country jam back in high school when we went.
Yeah.
Like we were drinking at 9 in the morning and we were drinking until like midnight. But we also had better stamina back then. We didn't get hungover.
Right.
Actually, I want to do like a pottery class. I think that would be a lot of fun. I loved ceramics in high school, so I think that would be cool to do like a couple's pottery class.
Yeah, or like going to a winery or a distillery or something.
A winery. Okay, so some behind the scenes tea for those of you who don't know. I have made it on to like somehow I made it on after TikTok, so I'm fine with that. I mean, although granted I say that I've made it on after TikTok, I've seen like 2 videos. So I don't know how that happened, or I do know how that happened. I was like stalking their social medias leading up to this movie because Katie and I were having to figure out how we could watch it.
Yeah.
Anyways, so I got on, this one girl was dropping all the tea, and apparently there has been a whole bunch of Twitter tea. I couldn't really find a whole bunch. It was like a lot of alleged things. So I say this and I don't really have sources. It's more just like the drama circulating within the after community. So while I say this, I do not have like 100% certain proof that this is what happened, but this is all alleged. So Anna Todd, the author of these books, has been fired. She has been involved in the first and second movies, and she has now been fired because the third and fourth one are currently in production. They're currently filming, but she is not involved. And apparently she was in a group chat with some after fans, and she was bashing Josephine Langford, who plays Tessa.
Justified, deserved.
And she was leaking footage from After We Collided to this like group chat. And I haven't seen screenshots of anything. Again, it's all been alleged, which then looking on Anna Todd's social media, she has posted pictures like with Josephine in the past being like, "You're so awesome at playing Tessa, like you brought this character to life for me." Like very positive posts about her specifically in the past. So apparently that was part of it. Oh yeah, so then with her leaking the footage, so apparently they were just like, yeah, no, we can't vibe with that anymore, and fired her. And she tweeted some like cryptic things after this all went down, but she has since deleted them, and I've had a hard time tracking down screenshots, people, but they are out there. I did see a few of them of her like just saying some like cryptic things. Noted on that. And then the other behind the scenes tea, I mean not really tea, but I think just like the fans have been abuzz with it is that because of the coronavirus pandemic, they had been filming the first movie in Georgia, and I think the second movie filmed in Georgia too, or like they filmed in the US.
Mhm.
However, with the pandemic, they are not filming this in the US. They are filming it somewhere in Europe, I think. The third and the fourth movie. I think they're doing like what 50 Shades did and filming them both at the same time. With that, with the change in scenery that and like everything that's going on, they said that they had to recast a bunch of people. So there have been a bunch of recastings. Like I think Kimberly, Vance, Hardin's mom, Landon, Molly,
Ooh.
like it sounds like almost everyone that's not Hardin and Tessa and Trevor. If they're putting Trevor in this third movie, I don't know. He is like a little bit in the third, or he's in the third book, so I would think he would be involved. And they were like really big on being like, we have Dylan Sprouse in the family, so I don't think I've seen anything about that. But they did do a lot of recasting, and they were like, it's either due to scheduling conflicts or blah blah blah. But then apparently some of the actors were saying like, no, we basically like weren't asked back.
Wow.
So it just sounds like a bit of a mess. But Molly, the actress who plays Molly, Iana Starks, I did like you a lot better in the second movie. She is now pregnant, and she's like 7 months pregnant or something. So it could be that with her that like she can't be playing Molly pregnant. So just something to note that now Anna Todd will not be involved and will not be writing. I don't think so on the third and fourth movies. The cast is going to be looking pretty different. But already people were recasted for
That's
this
what I
one
was
from
gonna
the first
say.
movie. So
The dad is different.
Karen is different.
That's very interesting, though. I'll be very interested to see how the third and fourth one play out. Just given even the fact that they're being shot at the same time and like in a different location.
And I think they're different directors too. Or it's a different director than this one. Castile Landon will direct both films, which was not the director of this one. Oh, Selma Blair also got replaced too, which is Tessa's mom.
Trash. R.I.P.
But also,
Selma
Blair has like a bunch of health issues, so she probably can't travel with COVID.
Yeah.
Like, I would think that would just not be safe.
Right.
So yeah, Landon, Carol, Vance, and Kimberly will all be replaced. And then obviously Molly was too.
Well, speaking of the third and fourth movies, we, at the end of this one, got left on a cliffhanger, got set up for Tessa meeting her father, and I just kind of wanted to know what your thoughts are regarding that situation. Obviously, Michaela, you've read the books, so you might have more insight into this situation, but I'm just intrigued by what's going to happen with that whole situation, particularly if Hardin and the dad are going to have a relationship, because Selma Blair's character, Tessa's mom, does make the comment that the two of them are so much alike. And so I wanted to see if that is going to be explored and if we're going to see them getting along and having a relationship because they're so much alike and they like have this understanding of each other. Or I could also see that being the initial thing that's going on with them, but then like something happens and it distinguishes like, oh, Hardin isn't like him, like Hardin is better than him and is going to treat Tessa better. I don't know, that was like the most intriguing thing, not the most intriguing thing, but something that kind of made me think about the next movies and what was going to happen. And I just wondered if you had any thoughts about that or any other thoughts about like the third and fourth movie.
The dad plays a huge role in the third book and is a big catalyst for something that happens in the fourth book. Do you want me to spoil it? Like, do you want me to say?
No, don't spoil it.
Okay. I'll just say, like, he does play a pretty big role, so I think we're going to see a lot more of him in the third book. And I will just say, since I'm not going to spoil this, I will just say I'll be interested to see if they keep in the plot line in the fourth book that involves her dad that really changes, like, Hardin and Tessa's relationship and is, like, a big catalyst for something that happens between the two of them. I will just be interested to see if they play that out. Since the second movie followed a lot closer to the second book than the first one did, I am hoping that we can see more of that with the third and fourth books.
Yeah.
However, as we're talking about the third book, the second and third book are like very similar in a way where it is just a lot of like they fight, then they fuck, they fight, then they fuck. Like, that's pretty much like the third book as well. Obviously, there's more conflict with like Tessa going to Seattle, or like with this offer to move to Seattle and her dad being involved. And we do get more of Hardin's mother in the third book, and there's like a storyline with that, and a lot more of Vance and Kimberly. So I have hopes that they will keep it similar, especially if they're getting a positive response on this movie and that fans are liking it more.
Yeah.
I think with movies like this, when there's such a devoted, passionate fan base, and like really just keep the books pretty similar to the movies. Like, you're not trying to make anything groundbreaking, just like keep it similar to make people happy. I hope that that's the route that they go with the third and fourth. I have high hopes for the third and fourth movie. And again, when I say high hopes, like, I just want it to basically meet all the expectations that I put forth for this second movie. The second and third books are my favorite in the series. Actually, I think the second one was always my favorite. So I got what I wanted out of it. So the third book, though, like, I was talking to Katie about this when I told her, I'm like, I didn't even finish After We Collided before this. Mostly because it's long and I'm reading like multiple books at a time. But the third book is 843 pages.
That's wild.
Which is just outrageous for a romance novel, especially in a 5-book series. The fact that that one is almost 900 pages long is just absolutely
I felt like this movie was so long too.
It did feel long, and I was just trying to, I think it feels long because it happens over such a short amount of time too. Like, really, it is like Christmas to New Year's and like shortly after and shortly before, you know?
Yeah, and it's just like the same thing happening again and again. Like, they're fighting and blowing up and leaving and all this stuff. And literally when it looked like she got in the green Uber to drive away, I was like, when will this end? Like, now he's gonna go after her again. But I was like, when I saw her behind him, I was honestly like, thank God, because it's probably going to resolve and be over. But I thought it was going to be over when she got in a car accident. We didn't even talk about that. But honestly, like, that wasn't... She got in a car accident, and then we just, like, moved on from that.
Yeah. The car accident was in the book, but it was, like, the circumstances were different. She never went to the hospital. Trevor was never involved. Like, obviously, I could go on and on about the differences. It's not really that important. I mean, it was fine. It was in there.
I thought it was going to end, like, when he left to go to London. Like, I thought it was over, and then it wasn't. I was like, oh my God, what the fuck?
I felt like they tried to do a lot in it. They tried to fit a lot in, which, I mean, I'm not mad at. I'd rather have more than less, so...
Yeah. Wow.
We
did it. This was a longer episode, but I think it had to be. We had a lot to say, a lot to talk about. Let us know what you thought about this movie, and be sure to obviously look out for our Friday video where we have a little premiere day in quarantine to watch this movie.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Obviously, be sure to visit our links in the description. We post new ones every week, but we post obviously the same one of how to like vote and stuff pretty close to crunch time. So if you haven't voted yet and you're able to vote, please vote.
All right, everyone. Well, please stay safe. Please stay informed. Vote if you can. Stay inside. Wear a mask. Lilas.
Lilas.